after Pahalgam, and we took them to the area of Bela Noor Shah, which India alleged had terrorist camps, and it was a terrorist hideout where terrorists were being trained, allegedly. So we wasted no time. We took a delegation of journalists to that very place to show them that business was going on as usual. There was a public school, there were shepherds, there were people who were talking to each other, and we exposed India's propaganda during that visit. And this visit was so successful that subsequently we had planned to visit Muridke and Bahawalpur the following day. And before we could take our flight to Lahore and travel to Muridke and then go to Bahawalpur, where India had alleged there were other terrorist activities going on that very night came a cowardly attack from our eastern neighbor. Now, when this whole episode started, India's whole premise of aggression was based on propaganda and fiction. What was our response in the strategic narrative domain? Because you see, before the actual battle comes the battle of narratives. And it is extremely important to give out the right information at the right time to the right audience. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to narrative, because every audience has a different mode of communication. And you must adapt to the particular mode of communication which is required for your target audience. So the first step, because India has always been in a habit of conducting false flag operations. There's a history of false flag operations which we've seen. And these false flag operations are used as a means for aggression and for attacking Pakistan. Because till date, after 78 years, almost 8 decades now, India still has trouble digesting the two-nation theory. Because the creation of Pakistan, with every passing day, is gaining more strength. The basis for the creation of Pakistan, the two-nation theory, is getting stronger with every passing day. And we've seen the rise of Hindutva ideology across our eastern border. We've seen minorities being persecuted. So when it came to the strategic narrative, what was our first and foremost reaction? The first and foremost reaction and the first and foremost narrative that we built was that India is in a habit of internalizing its external issues and externalizing its internal issues. Now, terrorism is India's internal issue. It's not an external issue. On the other hand, the Kashmir dispute, the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, is an external issue because it is an international dispute. And as per the UN Security Council resolutions, there is supposed to be a plebiscite. The people, the indigenous people, the oppressed people of Jammu and Kashmir have a right to self-determination. So that's an external issue. Now, when a state which is oppressive in nature, a state which does not believe in giving rights to its minorities, a state which thrives on the ideology of religious extremism and right-wing politics and lacks objective clarity, lacks strategic clarity, that state will always rely on false narrative to further its objectives. So when I say that India is promoting terrorism, I have justification, I have evidence to say so. We see transnational regression, We see transnational assassinations taking place of Sikhs. You must all be familiar with the case of Hardeep Singh Najjar in Canada. So these transnational assassinations which are taking place in US, Canada, and the UK, there is an ideology behind it. And that ideology is an ideology of terrorism. So the difference between India and Pakistan when it comes to fighting extremism, when it comes to fighting terrorism is that we are a front-line state against terrorism. No other nation can claim or has to its credit sacrifices that Pakistan has made in this war against terrorism. So, starting from our armed forces, no other country has a higher officer to soldier mortality ratio. The amount of officers that get martyred is the highest. So our officers lead from the front. They motivate their jawans and their soldiers and lay down their lives for the motherland. So you have the armed forces at one end, and then you have law enforcement agencies, you have the police, and you have innocent children. Who can forget the APS attack? So when I say that no other country has to its credit the amount of sacrifices, the amount of blood that Pakistan has given in the war against terrorism, I have evidence to substantiate my argument. And being the frontline state, even our children have given sacrifices. And when it comes to assessing the economic losses, they run into hundreds of billions of dollars. So when one Pakistani lays down his or her life for the country, yes, it's for the country, but it's also to make the world a safer place, because had it not been for these sacrifices, these terrorists would have been loitering the capitals of the world. So it's an established fact that Pakistan is combating terrorism. And it's an established fact that India is promoting terrorism. So I've talked about the Sikhs, I've talked about Hardeep Singh Najjar. But what about Kulbhushan Yadav? When it comes to the internal security of Pakistan, India can make a lot of movies, yes. They can provide a lot of entertainment. But when it comes to the harsh realities and the ground realities, we not only have captured their spies, but we have legally proven our case at international forums. Coming back to the relevance of this topic today, our first and foremost objective was to tell the world that Pakistan believes in peace, Pakistan is combating terrorism, and India has always promoted terrorism, because they've always spun this argument around on Pakistan. That, Pakistan does cross-border terrorism. And the way this Pahalgam episode was carried out, it is not only absurd, but it's ridiculous the way they built their narrative around Pahalgam. The FIR of the Pahalgam incident being registered after 10 minutes of the incident taking place. Security not being there at this tourist location. The line of control being more than 100 kilometers away from the Pahalgam area. So if an infiltration was to take place, what kind of defense did they have that the so-called terrorists penetrated hundreds of kilometers into their territory and they did not find out? So this raises a lot of questions as to their stance. And to be honest, the edge that we got in the narrative domain was when our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Sahab addressed the cadets at PMA Kakul, and he said that we are ready for an independent, transparent, impartial inquiry into the Pahalgam incident. 1 year on, India has nothing to say. India has no narrative. Every time we raise the issue of the Pahalgam false flag operation, we see no response, because there is none. There is no evidence. So you see, the truth always prevails. The truth is a powerful tool when it comes to building narratives. So on one hand, we were able to prove that we are fighting terrorism and India is promoting terrorism. On the other hand, we had the Pahalgam incident, to which India had no response. And from there onwards, we got an edge in the narrative domain. This edge that we had in the narrative domain would not have been possible without unity, cohesion, and synergy. And when I talk about synergy, the civil-military relations being ideal, number one. We had a complete unity of thought and action. So if I talk about my ministry, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, we were in constant touch with the ISPR and we were receiving information in real time. And we were sharing information and making joint narratives. So I think synergy was of prime importance. And we saw this synergy, this unity trickle down at all levels. We saw the people of Pakistan standing behind the government, standing behind the armed forces. As Information Minister, when I took to the floor of the House during the war and during the Indian aggression when they attacked Pakistan without justifiable cause, I was proud to have stated that today, across the political divide, we are united. Today, there is no political difference in this parliament, and we are sending out a single message to our enemy that we are united and we are, alhamdulillah, when we are united, we are a force to be reckoned with. So that message of unity went out, it trickled down, and I must also acknowledge the people of Pakistan. The way they fought this narrative war and grown up with a certain sense of patriotism, I did not know how the Gen Z would react to the situation.